Hello, everybody. How are we doing? I hope we are doing well. This is the first sound check. We're going to have to do a couple sound checks. I hope we're not getting too much echo, delta, echo, crocodile, alligator. All right, let's see. So can you guys hear me? Okay. So we have a guest today. Right now I'm getting crazy feedback. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. And also let's mute. I thought I had this all muted. All right. So all positive feedback. All right, let's see. Can you guys in the stream, can somebody give me a little, can somebody let me know if we're sounding good and everything? I'm hearing my voice twice, but that's not a big deal if you guys can't hear me twice. But the echo, I want to know if you guys can hear that or not. Is that going on with you guys too? You guys can hear it okay? All right, so if you guys hear it okay, then we're okay. How's it going, everyone? So today we have a special guest. We have Nicholas from In My Tanks, and he is a fellow aquarist, but he's also somebody who knows quite a bit about aquatic isopods. And I obviously like aquatic isopods, and the last couple years there's been a ton of really fascinating research on aquatic isopods and like all the good they can do in aquaculture, how they can clean eggs and how they don't actually eat any fish or fish eggs, fry, and live plants. So I thought I'd bring on somebody that has a bunch of experience. He's been selling them, and he's been trying to democratize and bring down the price of said isopods, which I really appreciate because they've kind of been a niche like thing, and I think that like having them as an affordable thing in the hobby for everyone to be able to grab is great, considering they're such a ubiquitous creature on the earth. So without further ado, I want to have him hop on up here. We're going to talk a bit about isopods. If you guys have questions, just address at Fishery or at In My Tanks, and that should show up for us. But welcome, guys. If you have unrelated questions, we can kind of get to that as we have time, but we're going to try to probably stay focused somewhat on isopods, live cultured food, and kind of the nature tank with your food in your tank, other options, and kind of that sphere of talking, as well as meeting this fellow YouTuber and fellow aquarist, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, let me bring him on in, and hey, welcome.
Hey, hello. That happened so fast. I was like, oh, wow. Where's the Hello, Alex. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Seriously, I'm glad that we got in contact. We were chatting for a while, and we hit it off pretty good on the phone, and that's always a pretty good indicator of like, yeah, you come on this show. Let's just chat about all this for the benefit of the community. Right. Like maybe someone else will have something useful and interesting to add. You know, obviously, I like to run the show as a learning opportunity for me, you, everyone. You know, like I'm not above anyone. I'm just trying to share the knowledge that I get, and then like disseminate it here when I learn. Like that's, so if we can all learn together, and anybody has anything to contribute, if someone in the chat right now has a bunch of experience with any of this, feel free to chime in, and we'll try to include you guys a bit too. But so first of all, who are you? What's your deal? Like, are you in Jamaica? Are you in, North Korea?
Man,
Where are you streaming from? And
Whoa,
how did you get into the hobby, or how long have you been? Yeah, like let's just hear.
You went from one great place to.
Yeah, what's your summary though? Like, where are you at, and what are you into?
Sure.
And how long have you been keeping fish, or what are you into in fish?
So with the fish, I'm into, I have a couple of fish tanks. I'm actually, it'll, I think it's in July that it'll be 2 years of me having my own fish tank, actually.
Cool.
So I'm relatively new, but kind of what happened is I got really sick for a few months and I couldn't do too much. But I made my grandpa a fish tank for Father's Day. And as I was setting it up and like doing the research, like, oh, the cycle and blah blah, I was like, wait a second, this is like really fun. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And I actually came across the aquatic isopods like within months of me getting into this because
Oh
I
wow.
was looking
Yeah.
for something to help. I was looking for like ways to help with fish eggs that didn't involve methylene blue. And that's actually how I came across them originally.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Methylene blue. That's that's one of those old hobby chemicals it's been around since the 20s or 30s in the hobby. And what's always fascinated me is the role that dyes play, like whether it's yellow dye or green dye for killing ick, or malachite green, Victoria green, this or that blue. Like we use dyes in the hobby, like historically, as a way to like kill things, or to sterilize. And it seems like if we can take things on without, for instance, antibiotics, they're great. They solve some problems, but they can harm your good bacteria, your beneficial bacteria, your biological filtration, the slime coat of your fish, all sorts of things. So when you hear that there's something out there that like laser focuses, and like there's another bacteria that only eats this kind of bacteria, or there's another organism that only feeds on fungi, for instance, it really, it perks up our ears these days. And I think it's kind of new to the hobby to really incorporate that, like the bio, I guess I don't know what you'd call it, but like biotech almost, like but not in a
Yeah, no.
sense that we're enhancing it at all. We're just utilizing what naturally occurs. And like a lot of this info is just not known, you know what I mean? Like for instance, aquatic
It's hard
plants.
because
Yeah, like I was just
I
gonna
was gonna
say,
say
like
it's hard because yeah, no, go for
no, yeah, sorry, there's a little delay, so I
it.
know we're gonna like we might talk over each other a little bit, so I
It's
apologize. But
fine. And
I was just
I
gonna
did want to say because
yeah,
earlier you said that we were on the phone having a good rapport, and I want to
yeah.
say we did have a great time. But just so you guys know, he really can talk offline about this stuff just as long as when he's live, and that's what I loved about talking to you.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a problem. Like I mean, like yeah, if you get me going about some sort of aquarium subject, and then especially if you get me going and you have something that I can learn, like oh, I'm excited. And I don't mean to like ever talk over, but sometimes I try to contribute what I know in hopes of like, this is what I know. Can you fill me in where I left off with what I just said? Like, what more do you know about that? And then I that's the magic in life to me. Like same with you, whereas I've been sick a lot of my adult life. And sorry guys, you can hear coughing in the background. That's my wife. She's really sick today. And she just yelled sorry. So we have a small house. There's only so much
It's
we
all
can
good.
only hide her in so many closets.
Oh
So
my god.
yeah. But no, I was
Well,
just gonna say that like, I love the learning something from one obscure end of the hobby and then being able to apply it to another like piece of the hobby. That's beautiful. And also thank you, Johnny, for we got a gifted membership that just happened. So thank you, Johnny. I
oh wow.
appreciate that. Speaking of sharing knowledge, welcome whoever got that membership. I haven't hasn't popped up on my screen, but welcome, and welcome to the chat, whoever's coming on in. Ross in Baltimore. We got another Maryland native
That's my
or
guy. That's my
yeah.
guy.
What's up?
I got some good guppies from him.
Right on. Yeah.
I would
So
say though, when talking about niches and the methylene blue, it's
yeah.
like the other thing I got into was killifish, right? And with
Okay.
killifish, one of the issues you have with their eggs a lot is them not hatching, right? Like them having a hard time getting out through the shell. So I'm breeding Procatopus similis, and I was
Oh.
having a lot of issues with needing to force hatch the eggs. So I was like, I'm not adding anything else that could harden the eggs, because methylene blue can harden the fish
Right, and
eggs
so
to
can
make it harder for them to
dechlorinator. Just
hatch.
just so folks know, like prime can also cause them to be not necessarily harder, but like the rubbery part of the egg, the elastic part, it can cause it to be more vulcanized or more like stiff. So the fish then sometimes get stuck. But I continue. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. But yeah, so actually, I started having success with the Procatopus when I started putting the isopods in my egg trays, and I found not only were they helping like eat the fungus and keep things clean in there, but because of how they feed, you know how like people argue back and forth, do shrimp hurt fish eggs? The problem with
Right.
shrimp is how they eat. They're picking at stuff, and some eggs they can't tolerate that. Like some eggs will get, pierced. But the way that the isopods eat is it's more of a scraping. So
Okay.
they're kind of scraping the surface, which helps weaken it. And that's actually in one of the papers. There's two papers I've read about them and fish eggs. And that's one thing that they noted, is that when the isopods were in there, the eggs hatched at a sooner time than normal, um, when
Yeah.
the isopods were in with them.
So, I've read a couple papers too in the last year specifically they came out, but they actually had an all glass box container. I've linked the paper on Discord if folks want to find it, it's in the documents. But literally they had zebra danios. They tried it with zebra danios, they tried it with crebensis and then medaka as well. So they just wanted a couple different kinds of eggs, I guess. But they tried it and they put
Yeah.
isopods in a tank that was all just glass in one, like the one of the test tanks, and then the other one was like some sort of substrate bed made out of, I think it was like fluorite or gravel, and so it had some like kind of molmy elements and things that you might expect to have a little more fungus and stuff. And one had flow, one didn't. But they basically, one was
Mm.
set up to maximize the chance of fungus almost. And they found in the cases of all those that the isopods cleaned the eggs, and that they actually separated the fungused eggs like out from the clutch. Like if there was one foggy egg that was fungused over, they actually like said that they would pull it out of the mix and they'd clean the eggs that it had been touching and then clean that. But I had never thought about the mouth part thing you're talking about. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why, but that's a really good like thought you're having, because the way the mouth part is shaped matters so much with like how algae gets eaten, for instance, in other parts of our tank. Like
Yep.
nearite snails have the two little beaks that go like this. Other snails have one that kind of scrapes like a brazier, and others have like clamps that kind of cut like shears. So that's really interesting though, because a lot of eggs, when you see them up close, they actually have like little sticky hairs and things that come out from them. They're not just a perfectly round thing. A lot of them have
Mm-hmm.
texture, or they have
Yeah.
like, some are sticky and are designed to adhere to like plants and things. And a lot of those, I think what happens is, when you get a shrimp or something, it can clean that somewhat, but I think maybe it gets caught, that stickiness can get caught and kind of get torn and so forth. Whereas it seems like the isopods are able to really clean all around that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I've had them with the rice fish eggs, and they are very sticky, and they'll get in groups, and I've watched them, climb through the eggs, and they will go to the bad egg. So like what you're describing, like I've seen that many, many, many times. And
Wow.
that's why I
Okay.
have anything that I have eggs with, I have isopods with. And when I first started, what I called the isopod agenda, because I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna lower the price of aquatic isopods and make them
Yeah.
popular. I was
Sure.
like, uh, one of the first things that happened was I was using my egg trays, and actually all the first orders I sent out, the isopods were breeding in the egg trays. So I was shipping hundreds of isopods, like just breeding them in little lunchbox containers. And then After that, all the orders were fulfilled from 1 10-gallon. So like when we're talking about like also them as like a live food culture and just how prolific they are, like just to give you an idea,
Yeah.
it's that exponential.
Right, right. And so, I mean, when you keep isopods, do you keep them in their own tank without any other creatures, or do you allow? I mean, at a certain point, you don't get to
Hell no.
decide what's you know what's in there. But like, you might get
Yeah,
ostracods and you might get like planaria, stuff like that. Like, have you noticed
definitely.
that like those kind of things populate with the isopods, or do you notice that isopods keep those at bay more, or like what have you seen to that
So
effect?
so I would say that I these days I don't have many tanks that are just isopods, and that's because one, at this point I know how, like, I look at it like this: how many isopods do I want to get out of this tank? You know, what
Okay.
I put into it, it could introduce predation, it could introduce competition, it could introduce just changing their behavior where it's harder to catch them. Because I don't keep any of them in like a empty, so that it takes me a while to catch them, longer than it should probably, because all my tanks look like, you know,
Nature kind of. Yeah.
like they weren't designed to catch anything out of. But yeah, you'll get the seed shrimp and stuff. You'll get those. If you feed a lot, you might get more detritus worms. Some people are freaked out by those. I find them to be a convenient food.
Yeah, I like
The
those.
yeah, the planaria I've had show up once or twice, but it's not really that prevalent in the isopod tanks. And isopods, like, you can use no planaria with them. I've used it a billion
Oh,
times.
can
So
you? Okay.
yeah. I've used it many times with them. Because actually the hydra doesn't necessarily kill the isopods, but it you see it on the glass, but the hydra's like on the plants too, and it does
Yeah.
sting them. So like if you want to see your isopods, having stuff that stings them all over the place, not really not really gonna work.
Yeah.
So I use the no planaria, like a low dose, to kill the hydra and
Yeah.
isopod tanks sometimes.
Okay. I mean, that's a great tip because hydra are kind of an insidious thing for like if you don't have fish, they really can just like out of nowhere explode in population. And they're like little sea anemones with these little harpoons that grab things. I have a video online showing hydra catching baby just guppies even. So let
Yeah.
alone rainbow fish fry or something really tiny. Like
And
they
you can
can
get
grab
I
those
got
and.
the big hydra, like the big orange ones, like
Oh
the
yeah,
ugly
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
Those definitely, like, the hydra's one of the pests. I'm like, at first I was kind of like, it's not, and you shouldn't freak out, like it's not the biggest
No,
deal, but
it's not
like
the end of the world.
if you're breeding stuff and like you don't want things to be stung, then you
Yeah,
should probably get rid of them. Like, it's gonna sting stuff at the very least. It will definitely sting stuff, even if it doesn't kill it.
for
I do
sure.
want to say the funniest thing I saw in that chat was on the mouth of the isopods. This Koro work says it's not about the size of the teeth, it's about the motion of the beak. How do
Sure.
people think of this stuff, man?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Thank you, Cora. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a new concept. I mean, it's an old people are always reinventing things, but for the sake of the hobby, people who are online, so forth, modern day aquarists, it's a little new idea to reintroduce pests and other small creatures back into the aquarium intentionally. We know
Mhm.
bacteria, we know live cultures being kept separately, but this concept of maybe there's some critters we can keep in a planted tank all the time and fish can eat them and they're not harmful. Like people have been advocating that with scuds. And in my opinion, scuds are great for medium sized fish, but terrible for like nano fish spawning, shrimp tanks, any tank where you need like small size organisms that are safe. Like those things are like locusts. From what I've seen,
Mhm.
scuds. They reproduce fast. They're a great food. So don't get me wrong. Gamaris are Gomeris pollex usually is what's in the hobby. They're a wonderful food, but they're not the best roommate for like nano fish or shrimp, in
Horrible.
my opinion.
I
So
don't know if you know, but like I'm like a big. I've turned into a big Scud hater. Like, but it's kind of like
Scud
I
hate
have a
crimes.
conflict of interest because like I'm with the isopod agenda and I do technically sell isopods, but Scuds are just everything bad that isopods aren't. It's just hard for me not to hate them. Like you can't keep them with fish eggs. You can't keep them with shrimp. You can't
Right.
even keep some of them with fish fry. You can't
Right.
keep them with plants. It's like isopods. I can keep them with all of those things. They've
Right.
never hurt anything that I put them with.
Right. So
So
I've documented, and I can't remember if it's in a short or a longer form, but I've shown how they eat like any tender vegetation. Scuds will come out and eat at night, especially, and then they'll eat fish food and stuff that gets missed, which is helpful. Like I said, if for say you have meat like a 2-inch tetra or inch and a half tetra, that's your smallest fish, and you're not breeding the smaller fish, then I don't think it's as big of a problem. But as soon as you start getting either delicate plants or an aquascape, or as soon as you want to spawn some sort of fish that has small fry, you start running into trouble. So in my estimation, I think Daphnia are another really peaceful, wonderful roommate to the fish tank. But the problem is the fish eat them all pretty much immediately,
mm,
and they can't, maybe at one or two survive, but it's like 1% can kind of survive in the margins. Whereas it seems like these isopods are able to hide a little better from the fish if you've got a little bit of maybe some leaf litter and some plants and things like that. Like, um,
absolutely.
but they definitely must taste good, because I've now witnessed pretty much any fish with it, if it's in their mouth, eat the isopods as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're like a big part of fish diet in the wild. They're in almost every single body of water.
Right,
So
yeah,
like
anywhere
fish
but
all around the
Antarctica.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, fish all around the world are eating them. And again, comparing to scuds, like similar kind of nutritional value. And when I've gone and like observed them in nature, they've always occurred with scuds. I've always seen scuds with them. So if a fish is eating scuds, it's probably eating them too, because they seem to occur together a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. You
yeah,
know,
for sure.
isopods, I've read also, are very sensitive to nitrates and pollutants, like chemical pollutants, as far as like industrial level goes. Whereas they say scuds can withstand uh,
Mm.
pretty heavy
Well, see,
pollute.
actually,
Yeah.
there's quite a few papers that I've read that find the opposite.
Oh, really?
Specifically with oxygen, the isopods outcompete the scuds in places with low oxygen. But you're right
Okay.
that if you look at how like the Department of Natural Resources and stuff will have them
Yeah.
listed, they do list them as sensitive to pollutants. But like as far
Okay.
as like the general scope of things, they are like very hardy and
Sure.
can resist all that stuff. But like I guess how they categorize it, they put it as like slightly,
Okay.
I forget the wording. It's like slightly not tolerant or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
intolerant or something
yeah,
to,
yeah. But
yeah.
they're actually supposed to be hardier than scuds. Now, I do think that leads a lot of people to just putting them in horrible conditions and then being
Yeah.
surprised with when they do well. But I think what people don't understand is like the worst ditch that you think is dirty outside has way more resources to process
Right.
things than the whatever could jar you put the isopods in at
I
home.
think that's a really good point that you're mentioning there, though, because a lot of people make those like I guess they've gotten coined resurrection jars. And they go out to the pond, they get the nastiest muck they can find and some leaves. And sure, that is where there's a layer of like inorganic and like detritus and like sulfur gases and stuff. Right above that, like there's a lot of decomposition. There's a lot of like worms and nematodes and insects and things like decomposing right there. But you don't necessarily want that. Like, I mean, in a ditch, even a ditch is like what, 40 feet long, 30 feet long, and
Yeah.
2 feet deep of substrate for different organisms. And, I don't know, however wide, water coming and going, air above it. Like, it's a big environment, even in a
Yeah.
ditch,
And even
compared
a
to
ditch
a
gets water changes, you know?
yeah, yeah. So people, I think you're right. They think dirty water, and the definition of what dirty water is. There's also dirty in the sense that there's a whole bunch of green algae, and that can be good to a fish.
Right.
It may still be very oxygenated, yet full of small freshwater planktonic and algae life. And that could be great for fish. Yet it could be cyanobacteria in another group of, or another, body of water, and have a dead zone with no oxygen and be pretty bad for fish. So I think, like, we need to kind of rethink what dirty means, or what unhealthy is
Hmm.
in the sense of our fish.
Or even polluted water. Like, sure, it's in polluted water, but you put it in the Gatorade green ammonia test water, like that's probably worse than the polluted water.
Right,
You know?
right. Well, and not to mention, like you're saying, the ability to get water changes, and just even like, so some of the same research papers I've seen recently talk about danios being able to sense within a tenth of a degree Fahrenheit the temperature of the water in their tank, and they will move
Wow.
to the optimal spot. Like, there's a temperature they want to stay at, like,
Wow.
but they can sense that, and they'll swim like 4 feet over to the little spot where they've got, that temperature to a tenth of a
Huh.
degree. So also oxygenation, also ozone. So there's a lot of interesting things that fish and these organisms can probably sense, and we might even be able to, like, technologically utilize those
Yeah.
sensory sensitivities. Like humans, we can smell the iron in blood very well, because evolutionarily, when there's blood around, it's either like a meal, or you're about to die, or something's in trouble. So we've
Mm.
evolved for that to get,
It's
our
not just
brain.
for nosebleeds.
Right, yeah, yeah. So, but also, surprising to some people, we have better ability to sense ozone than a shark does to sense blood in water. And like, parts per billion, we can sense 1 part per billion of ozone. And that's fresh water, or water moving around, is why. And so when it starts raining, after it's been dry a while, or at a waterfall, or an area with rapids, you get ozone being made. And so it's just kind of interesting. Like, we think of certain creatures like a bloodhound as being really sensitive, or a shark being really sensitive to blood. That doesn't mean they're really sensitive to everything. We all evolve these sensitivities for a reason. And so I wonder, isopods, I'm sure detritus, like methane, like the gases associated with decomposition, they must be able to seek out, because, as you're saying, they won't eat a live plant. Yet if I have a leaf that's kind of like translucent and rotting, they'll all be munching on that. So I wonder how they tell the difference. Have you noticed, I mean, will they eat or trim up like a plant? If you have a plant with a leaf with holes in it, do they trim the edges like snails do, and kind of eat some of that right to the living tissue, or do they just stay away from living plants altogether, from your experience?
In my experience, I don't really see them eating off of living plants like that, like at all. I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen. I'm just saying that
Sure. Yeah.
I haven't ever seen it. And my understanding is that they pretty much only eat dying material.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I always recommend to people put a leaf in with them, put some leaves in with them, because that's one of their natural food sources, if not the leaf itself, the things that grow on it. And if you go out and find them in their environments, like they're almost always in leaf packs.
Yeah.
Um, so that's like probably one of the first things I tell people is like leaves, they can live off of just leaves. I've bred them off of just leaves before.
Okay.
Um,
So what do you
yeah.
feed that's a good question. I mean, like, what do you feed your isopods? Do you just throw leaves in there? Or
So
what?
my isopods, they get the same food as whatever else I'm feeding fish that day. This is like my first isopod 10-gallon tank right there.
Okay.
And it's what interesting you talked about like live foods and things that are in there all the time, because what I've been doing recently is I've been using the isopod tanks. I always have shrimp with them, but recently, well, not for the last year, I've been using them as fry grow tanks too.
Sure.
And I've even added Daphnia to it, so I'll get a tank of
Ah,
isopods and Daphnia and stuff, and I put my fry in there
they'll love
for a few
that.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. And I have one Daphnia culture I put fry in, and they've been growing like nut. That is the Procatopus. They've been growing so much faster.
Oh,
So
yeah.
and lasting in tanks with predators is something I've seen for sure. Like I had a 20 high. I had isopods in there, but then I put crabinzes and checkerboard cichlids in there. It was like a holding tank for a
Yeah.
few months, and I thought for sure they were all gone. I took out the extra sponge filter, coarse sponge filter, to put in a new tank, and the moment it went into the new tank, like 30 isopods came out of it. So
Yeah.
like you might think that they've been eaten and been gone, but they're so different than other things we keep in the aquarium. Like not only because they crawl and not
Yeah.
swim, but they're
Yeah.
so flat. They fit into
And they have
a lot
armor.
of different places.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've watched fish grab them and try to eat them and literally get everything but the antennas down, and then all of a sudden, like, cough them back up, and the isopod just
Yep.
goes into the substrate and
My
elsewhere.
favorite was the two favorite responses I've seen is one, I did see one act like a scorpion to try and
Oh,
scare off a peacock gudgeon. Like it raised its back.
oh,
And then the
wow.
other one, I put them in, it was falling, and it was an Epiplates, a killifish, came to eat it, and it saw the fish coming, it curled into a ball and was too big to be swallowed. And
Oh,
eventually
yeah.
the killifish gave up and spat
That
it out.
that's a really interesting, thing you've noticed because I've been feeding them now for several years. I haven't been including them into my tanks for more than it's been maybe 2 years or a year that I've played around with that a bit, but now I'm really, putting them in and making them part of the ecosystem and finding it beneficial. But I started kind of cautiously as just throwing like 20 in for food and kind of watching them on a sand bottom tank or whatever. But when I put them in a cup, I'll notice that like if I have 10 or 15, they all get together and it's not just a temperature thing, but they'll clump up into like a transformer, a Megatron of of like all the isopods. But I'm wondering if that also provides some level of security for them as well. Like if
Hmm,
if they're able to hold on and not be swallowed individually. Um,
that's
but I do know
interesting.
that they also, I read about it and I assumed, oh, they're just keeping warm or cold or adjusting their temperature by
I have
vibrating in
seen
a
that.
group. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
which
have seen that, and they'll like hibernate kind of when they get super cold, and you think they're dead, and then they'll warm
yeah,
up and be fine.
totally. They also have the like suspended animation for their eggs, that they store in their little pouch too. They're like the marsupial critters of the aquatic world. You see them when they have their pouches. I should take a picture right now. All my outside have eggs, and so they all have that little
Yeah.
white membrane on their belly. So I saw some good questions here in the chat that folks were asking, and let me see here. Yeah, okay. So let's see. If you have live plants with no dead material for them to eat, um, will they stay off healthy plants? Okay, so yeah, they will. Scuds will not, though. Scuds, I know for a fact, will eat the crown and tender parts of your plants, and they will then go to less tender parts. But the thing that I have read, and I'll have to find where I sourced it because I don't think I saved it. But I did come across a paper that was suggesting that the stomach digestive capabilities of isopods in particular are not capable of breaking down like cellulose in like the live or what's it called? That does um, that takes the sun, turns it into photosynthesis, chroma.
Oh man, you're speaking that science.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
You got it. You
The
got it.
Yeah, well, it's. I'm trying to think of what the name of the stuff that does the is called, the cells that do the. take the light and make energy out of it. I'm like totally drawing a blank.
Well, the only one I can
Chlorophyll.
think
Thank
of.
you. Okay,
Okay,
chlorophyll.
cool. Okay.
So chlorophyll, they have a hard time breaking down chlorophyll. So therefore, they don't want live plants. They want dead plants. So they don't
Mm,
even have to worry about it. Also, the cell wall is really tough to get through on a like level. It's why humans don't do the best, with like certain roughage and stuff. Like we need a certain amount to push things through our system, but also like it's harder to digest a bunch of a too much like
yeah.
fiber and stuff too.
One
So
one there's a good paper. It's like 150 years of Acellus aquaticus. It's like a
mhm.
compilation of primary research.
Oh
And one
wow, okay,
interesting thing about them is I'll put the link to it in the chat. But one interesting about it is they have like a symbiotic relationship with a bacteria in their stomach that helps them break down like
okay,
lignocellulose, how you say it.
yep,
So like they actually do in some ways fulfill a different, like that's one of their competitive advantages, with the
yeah,
leaves and things like that. Like they can process some of those complex cellulose stuff, but I don't
yeah.
know if it's a difference between live or not. I'm not read enough to know that, but I do know that they do have some kind of special capability when it comes to
Yeah. Well,
that kind of thing.
that would make sense because this paper was talking about like the possibility of why they're not eating live plants, essentially saying that they have evolved to more like not necessarily that they couldn't 100% or anything like that, but like it wouldn't make sense efficiency wise in nature or through evolution. Like why eat something that you can barely get nutrients out of versus something that you can readily digest, just like you're saying. So if they also have like a whole gut biome that's designed to digest dead rotting plant material, it really makes sense why they would
Hmm.
stick to that. Because I think people ask a lot of times, well, what's to stop them from eating live plants? Like one day they're just going to change their nature and start eating a
Well,
bunch
I
of
think the
plants
thing
and
to
stuff.
stop them is that they can eat a lot of stuff you can't see. So I mean, we're talking about something that
Yes.
eats small fungi and
Yeah.
bacterias and things. So I think
They
part of the problem is one of the most fun parts of this hobby is feeding things. So like when something eats
Yeah.
stuff that we can't really see, like I don't really want to hear about that. Like
Yeah, right. Yeah.
you're getting
Yeah.
this sinking pellet.
Yeah, or yeah, I think you're right. And people, early on, that's something that happens. People tend to overfeed their fish, or like every few hours they want to like give a pellet to a betta or something.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to just stop that. You need to get multi-tank syndrome, and just that way you can have something to feed throughout the day, but they're different tanks. Oh, we have a super
Yeah.
chat. My apologies if I missed the answer, but are there isopods that like lower pH? Source, it's been 20 plus years since my last tanks, and just got Scuds in the mail. Boo. M and
Ah!
J. So
Did it?
Scuds, if you have medium-sized fish, or even if you have fish that are eating the Scuds, don't feel bad. Like you can have that. If you only wanted to breed shrimp, or if you wanted to breed some fish that's under an inch, though, I would probably start a new tank. Literally, like Scuds are pretty hard to. Actually, this is another question for you that you might know. You have any way to kill Scuds and nothing else? Like if you just wanted to kill the Scuds, but you don't want to kill your shrimp, I have not heard of
I don't.
anything that would do
Yeah,
that.
I think you're
I
gonna.
think
I mean, there's some fish maybe like if you have smaller scuds, then maybe there's a fish that eat the scuds, but wouldn't be able to necessarily eat all the adult shrimp. But I mean,
yeah,
I don't
okay.
know, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, Garden of Eater, who has 500 shrimp tanks, and he's had Scuds before and they drove him nuts. He's also said that other than manually removing them one by one, you just need to start over. If you're
Yeah.
trying to
Or
breed
you put
shrimp,
like the food that they gather on or something and try and
yeah, try to
net
grab
them
them.
out on it, I guess. But
It's still a
you
losing
shouldn't have gotten
battle.
scuds.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm a hater, so
yeah,
I
you're
it's easy
harsh.
for me.
I'm trying to like, pad the blow a little bit. Like M
No,
and J.
because the thing that the scud defenders they always say is, well, that's only certain species of scuds. I'm like, my friend,
The
there's
ones in
not a
the
single
hobby.
person. Yeah, there's not a single person selling Scuds that I would trust to identify it correctly. First, even if I agreed with you, you know what I mean? Like, then now we're talking about, okay, but do you know exactly what species of Scud you have? I mean, you
Right,
might think you do, but
right.
I'm gonna hate to break it to you. I'm pretty sure they're kind of like isopods, where it's
There's
really
a
hard to
lot.
identify.
There's a
Yeah.
lot, and you need a microscope, or some case even genetic testing, which is like, what the hell? Like, there's some that you can only tell the species apart by literally offering them two types of food, and like the one that can eat, whatever. Like one is omnivorous, one is only this or that, and so like that's how you'd probably identify them. Other than mouth parts, like you said, you could probably see which one has serrated teeth or whatever to eat said food. But yeah, it's very tricky. So I was gonna say the other part of the question: are there isopods that can live in lower pH? I can tell you that there are right off the bat, because here in the Northwest, in Washington State, where I'm at in Seattle, we have a distinct abundance or of like the species that would be in far northern Europe, and or some of the invasive species from like the UK, Scotland, Germany, and kind of Scandinavia, as far as these microfauna go, because our freshwater ecosystems here were all scoured to the bedrock by glaciers only 9,000 years ago. So there's only 50 species of freshwater fish in Washington state compared to 600,
Wow.
700 species in like Tennessee, Alabama, some of the other states. So also our fresh waterways have actually had more diversity in my area for the little critters like scuds and things, because there's not as many mid-sized predators. There's not as many like sunfish or gobies and gudgeons and darters and shiners, things like that to hunt them down. So when they do get introduced and they're good survivalists living in like the bilge water of ships and things like that, or even embedding into like holes of HULL holes of ships, they are considered wood louses, usually the freshwater isopods. So
Wow.
that's something I haven't really looked at much. But do you notice, will they eat wood in the tank? Have you seen them eating like sticks and
They
stuff
do
like that?
like, they definitely like collecting on wood.
I
And
see them
when I
gather on it. Yeah.
I'm like pretty like, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm anti collecting, but like I feel uncomfortable when I collect things, because like when I go out and I grab a piece of wood and there's 200 isopods on it,
Yeah.
I don't want to take that piece of wood, because I understand. But when I did go and collect, I did that story in reverse. But yeah, they collect on wood in the wild a lot. That's one of the best places to find them.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're eating off it for sure as
Yeah.
it breaks down, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But to
So
answer the
yeah.
the pH thing, I would say in two parts. It's like, one, yes, because there's a lot of spring freshwater streams that are soft that they're in. Also, again, they're always in leaves. It's like, aren't we paying leaves to soften our aquariums? Like, there's
Yeah.
some places there are tons of leaves, and that's part of what they do, is help prevent an over buildup of leaves in nature, because they do
Right.
speed up and you'll see when you have them in your tank with leaves, like the leaves definitely evaporate
Yeah.
quicker than usual.
I've also seen they kind of produce um, it's so in my tanks that I used to have scuds in, there was a fluffy layer of malm, like this thick, and it would get fungus on it. It would get cyanobacteria on it from time to time. It just kind of would get these things that would go through it. And then eventually it would break down and kind of compact into substrate that I'm sure has nutrients. But with the isopods,
They mow it down.
they mow it down, and there's a very fine silt that they leave, but it's like it must be just either pure nutrients or pure waste. I don't know what I
Well, it's
haven't
both,
tested
because
it,
like
but yeah.
I think the wording in the paper is like, when they're breaking down these things that most creatures can't, like the
Hmm.
lingua cellulose and stuff.
Yeah, that's
They're
wild.
also they're also making those nutrients available to everything else in the
Yeah,
system as they
because
break it
then
down.
it's part of them as an energy that the fish can metabolize. I mean, they'll literally turn it into ATP in the cells. So the mitochondria of each cell
There
in
we
their
go.
body is literally turning it into ATP. Now, ATP can be processed by any organism on Earth. Like you couldn't eat a bowl full of ATP and it wouldn't be good for you. But like, I'm just saying, like that is like kind of the energy unit that all cellular life on Earth kind of speaks that language. And that's like with plants, like nitrogen's kind of locked away, even though it's in the atmosphere everywhere, they can't use it. And so I think when we figure these things out, it sounds almost too good to be true. Like what these isopods do all these things, like, and they don't
Yeah.
eat our good plants. Like how are they specifically not eating our plants, not eating our fish, not eating eggs? And the answer is they are kind of fungivores and detrivores, and I don't know what the word is for eating bacteria, but like there's a lot of ant species.
Nastivores.
Yeah, nastivores. There's a lot of ants though that also like leafcutter ants. They don't eat the leaves; they grow fungus on
Ant
the
keeping is
leaves.
that's a whole nother rabbit. I know some ant keepers now for the first time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I had
It's
no idea.
wild. I think there's some real crossover that might be potentially fruitful
Yes.
in those,
Um.
in how that goes down. Because yeah, there's people keeping ants, and you can see like the ant chambers, they control the humidity, they control
Mhm.
like their saliva and the enzymes that are on the plants, and then that
This is really, if you
decides.
want to play God, you should keep ants, because when they talk
Yeah.
about it, you're just like, oh my goodness, this is like a
Yeah,
universe.
totally.
I
And
will, just because
oh
it
yeah.
bumped into my head. One more thing on the soft water thing is like, I think people also need to remember, like, those who are on well water hopefully know this. It's like the pH and stuff is changing throughout the seasons in the water they're in.
Mhm.
So you're not gonna find something that's like, unless it's in some limestone stream or something, you're not gonna find something where it's like, oh, it's only gonna take, because it's changing throughout the seasons, as leaves fall in and then they're gone, and XYZ, it rains, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and that's another thing with like water changes and temperatures. Like, things go through a lot of fluctuation in nature,
Yeah.
so
Well, and that's, I mean, so here's something that when people are like, that fish has to be at 74 degrees to 78 or it dies. And I'm like, sorry, if your fish is healthy in other ways, if it's not stressed already and, at the brink, a fish goes down in a lake. Have you guys ever been in a lake? Have you ever swam 20 feet down? It gets freaking cold. Like, I mean, even in the tropics or whatever, like it gets
as
a
someone
lot
who's bad at
cooler.
swimming, I definitely went swimming in like some lake in Maine, and I got tired. I was like, let me just let myself sink. I'm like, oh my god, this lake is deep, and I'm like, oh my god, it's cold as hell.
Yeah. So I mean, like a fish in even 10 feet of water has like a range of parameters that vary quite a bit. Now, granted, they can go to whichever place they want, but yeah. So Dave is saying I have isopods, malawa shrimp, and Bloody Mary shrimp all in the same tank. Shrimp are breeding. Isopods will be soon. A safe tank to establish breeding colonies that can be here. I'll just put it up. Can be bred in all my other tanks. Yeah, so I agree. Like I think those three critters, Neocaridina shrimp are fine too, but Malawa shrimp are just really prolific for a Caridina species and really hardy. Um, but yeah, Dave, that's a cool combo. The fact that you have Bloody Marys in there also, I bet the Malawa shrimp may outcompete them a little bit at some point. But if you're feeding them and they have the resources, then at a certain point they might all be able to, get along fine. I would just, it's probably a balancing game, I bet, for you at some point of not overfeeding versus having the needs met of everybody. But
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty cool.
actually, so one thing on that, and real quickly, Johnny Best, he asked how many isopods would be suitable for
Yeah,
20.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say we should get to that too.
however many,
Right,
many,
1,000
however
if
many.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can start a colony like what do you think? I mean, I think honestly, like 40 or 50 really gets you going really well. But in
Yeah.
theory, you could start with one pregnant female, you know,
So
but
like I always try and tell people like, because people always want to buy like as many as possible. I'm like, look, I started off with just 10. I bought from
yeah,
the Garden of Eden for $4 an isopod plus shipping.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Like that was I couldn't that was the only place I could find at the time. Philip Fishworks, he wasn't selling them yet. And Carolina Biological, like I wasn't about to go through that.
they're really, really
Yeah,
expensive a lot of times.
expensive and contamination. Plus, they have like a footnote where they say like it's collected near them. So like that's big. I think they're like actively just collecting them and selling them. But I was like, I wanted them to be tank raised, you know, and Garden of
Right.
Eden is the only option. But the price is what made me start. No, like offense to them because I love Garden of Eden. I've watched their streams all the time, but
Yeah. No.
I think you can sell things for whatever price you want. But for
Yeah.
me, I was like, there should be another option out there.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I think they're much slower at reproducing than Scuds or Daphnia or brine shrimp or, you know, whatever. Like
I'll say
they
Daphne for sure. For sure.
they're I would say that well, I'd be curious what your thoughts are. How fast do you think a generation can be in isopods? Like
Okay,
what
so
realistically speaking,
this is
like
how it would go.
not the science, you know, but like what have
Yeah.
you
So
seen?
the timeline that I always say is like a lot of people they get them, they don't see them for a month or two, then they see a lot.
Yeah,
So what's happening
totally.
there is that their mating behaviors, both being gravid and the actual like copulation, all involve not being out in the open. So you get them in, they doing their thing. The females, when they're gravid, almost always are underneath a leaf or hiding out for a long time. So honestly, not seeing them is not the worst sign ever. Then
Totally. Yeah.
they have a bunch of babies. You don't see them; they're too small, and they reach sexual maturity in 4 to 5 weeks at 76 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So you're kind of basically looking at you get them maybe in 2 weeks, whatever size they're at when you got them. They're sexually mature. Now they're off doing their thing, and then it's another month before you start realizing, oh, I'm seeing them all the time, and it's because your population grew. So
Right.
I think that 10 is enough. It's more than enough to start. And I always say, like, you don't need to order more than one starter culture. Like, whatever the amount is, like, that's going to be enough. But yes,
Just be
if you wanted
patient,
it,
you know.
if you wanted it to go crazy, 50 is like obviously exponentially more because maybe 30 of them have 50 plus babies. And then in
Yeah.
5 weeks, those are all having babies and
Yeah.
things like that.
Do betta fish eat them? Yeah, a betta fish will eat them. Now, the only thing is they do like to stay on hardscape. They're not going to be swimming around in the open water that much. Some species can kind of zip around the water, but
Yeah.
they
I need to find those.
you need like a stick or something where they can climb up and like eat like a leaf or something
They'll go
or
vertical for sure.
yeah, I mean, they'll go up the glass and stuff here and there if you leave it like let algae grow and stuff too as well. But they're just that's the only thing I would say about like does this fish or that fish eat them? It's some fish are kind of out of sight, out of mind, and they don't go hunting down at the bottom like a
100%.
betta. Some betta hang out at the bottom all day, but a lot of betta fish hang out in their top corner and blow bubbles, and like that's
Yep.
all they do. So if it's out of sight, out of mind, you may need to take like a turkey baster or a pipette and like grab a couple of the isopods and drop them in from the top to kind of teach that fish like, oh, it's a food source. And
Yes.
then they'll start actually hunting. Like bettas will learn. I don't know about other fish necessarily, but
Well, I always
definitely
definitely tell people like if you're gonna try and keep them with fish, one, I do have a list of fish that I keep them with without thinking about it. I definitely have that list, but just in general, I'll tell people that you should culture them separately because they don't need that much space. You should just do it because it
and
won't
then
take
you
that much
won't have a
time.
crash where you're like, oh, my fish ate them all. I don't
Yeah,
have any to
And then
replenish.
second, for the love of God, pipette them at the bottom. Like, do not. If you pipette, they fall so slowly and they're wiggly. Like, yo, the neon tetra, every fish is going to try and eat them immediately.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm saying to do that so your fish can eat
Yeah,
them.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But usually people are buying them
to inoculate the tank.
I'm starting to get people that are getting them for live cultures, but people are usually keeping them as pets still.
Yeah.
And I don't actively feed them yet, but
I do.
definitely.
I'm a jerk.
Well, I mean, if you feed them to like an apisto, if you watch an apisto eat
Yeah.
them, it makes sense. You're like, yep, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, the new fish that I got from Florida, the cypress and swamp darters, like, oh my gosh, that is like you can tell that they just evolved to eat that. I put mosquito larvae, I put Daphnia, and sure they'll like hop up and they'll eat one or two. But when I put the isopods in, they're eating them, and before they've got it down and the antennas down, they like are trying to eat the next one. Like they must be like KFC chicken to them or something. Like, they're all about that. Let's see here. Yeah, and I've been debating. It's very nice. House of Pisces also said, "Get well, Miss Fishery." She's working on it. She's had like bronchitis or whatever it is. She's had it like 3 times in the last few months, and just she's worn out. And that's really unlike her. How big do isopods get? Well, if you are in Lake Baikal, they can get up to a kilo. They can get up to 2 or
Sheesh.
3 pounds, and they can be carnivorous. But they don't do that like hardly anywhere else. So, yeah, actually, interesting fact. If you want to look at a lot of freaking scary isopods or crustaceans and things, Lake Baikal, the deepest lake in the world, and one of the oldest, has like 100 and some species, I think, of crustaceans, and they've got the gigantism thing going on because they've been their own ecosystem so long. But no, your average isopod, I would say some could push almost an inch or maybe like 0.75 inches with their antennas and everything. What do you think? Like, what have you
Yeah,
seen?
definitely. Like some bigger males can definitely hit an inch, and depending on
Yeah.
the species too, which
Yeah.
I'm working on. Like it's hard, but because I'm not from a science background, but I'm working on being able to get to the place where I can talk about the species of North America competently and the differences between them. But in the hobby, most people selling them have different species. So like mine's the same as Gardens of Eaters, but I have
Yeah.
2 more species I'm about to put in that no one else is selling. You got Conrad's Fish, which is now Aquapods LLC. He has like Lurcius species that's gets a lot bigger than mine. So I would say 1 inch easily. He has like a black morph, a calico
Yeah,
morph,
those are
which
cool. I was looking
yeah,
at
yeah,
those.
yeah. That's like if you look up before, if you're looking
He's
up
been
like,
selling them for like 5 years or more.
but so 2 years ago, like when I was getting into it, he was gone and like he wasn't responding to messages. Like for whatever 5 years he was selling them, and he disappeared. But he came back recently. But that is that same OG guy.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
love him.
that's what I thought.
That's Conrad. He's a great guy. Every now and then I'll hit him up and like we'll share isopod information or something.
So where are you selling these? You're off the East Coast, US. So where do you sell yours if people want to buy them?
So you can buy them from me at inmytanks.com.
Okay. So
I'm
that's just inmytanks.com like it
Yep.
sounds, right?
It's just
Inmytanks.com.
inmytanks.com. And like I like feel weird. Like I don't like promoting like
I know you're
the
modest.
store a ton. Well, also it's like legitimately the breeding stuff is what I do for fun. Like I used to be big into video games and stuff. This is all I do with my free time. So like I try and avoid, like I even stopped selling on eBay for many reasons, but one of them was like it was becoming too much of like a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like too many people buying them.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, that's why I don't sell things usually. I mean, I want to provide, like I wish I could send isopods to all my viewers, but at the same time, like I agree. I don't like the act of shipping fish or shrimp or plants or any of it, and then let alone the idea of them getting lost in transit and then having to baby each
Oh, well,
order, and then
the good
people want to
thing
be your
is,
friend or chat, and it's like I'd love to, but I just don't have time.
yeah, I mean, definitely like the people on eBay, like no offense to anyone buying stuff on eBay, but like the dumbest people I dealt with were the people buying from me on eBay. Like I kind of felt like I was sending isopods to their death. And it's just because like a filtering. It's like if you go to a fish club, there's many people who have never bought a fish on eBay before. at those places. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same as like you go on Facebook and you see where people are buying shrimp. It's none of the places we're buying shrimp from. It's like businesses you've never heard of before. Because it's like different aquarists in different markets. So like people on Facebook, you know, that are looking for mystery snail and shrimp recommendations and are buying shrimp off of Amazon, like, is different than Reddit. I love the people on Reddit. When I sell isopods on Reddit, I've met some great friends off of there. Not made as many friends off of eBay. So so at one point I was like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on doing good work, putting them out through Reddit and my website. And now there's so many people selling them in comparison. Like I can say, like I did in the chat, go buy them from Conrad, Aquapods LLC, go buy them from over here, XYZ, which is the isopod agenda that I've been dreaming of.
Right. Well, and I mean, like
And,
locally, for people in my fish club, I'll give them a bottle of 50 when they just come over to my house. I'll be like, I don't know, let me see how many I can catch in 10 minutes. Like, come with me, you know, smoke a bowl or whatever. And like in the time that they're doing that in their car, I'm like, all right, here you go. This is what I got. Like, you know, or flip a little sand timer. I don't know. You see, I like irregular units of measure for time. You know.
no, I feel you. I feel you. I would say the thing about shipping isopods, which is nice, is as long as you don't ship adult ones, like the mortality rate is almost non-existent. Like
Yeah.
I was selling an
True.
electronic thing, like an extra like camera part or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the wrong label was put on a box of isopods that was for the electronic thing, and it was like ground shipping to a
Yeah.
completely different place. It got there, that dude put it return to sender. It was in the mail for 2 weeks. The isopods showed up like nothing ever happened. They're fine. That's happened to me more than once. So I've
Right.
I've only lost a whole shipment of them one time, and
Heat.
so the water itself, the person told me, was 100 degrees. Now
Okay.
they claimed they picked it off the porch immediately, but with my understanding of the shipping process, there's almost no way
No.
that a box should ever get that temperature.
No,
Like,
that would mean
no
that it's
way.
like 120 something outside, probably. So, I
Yeah,
mean, I
like,
guess that's
or I've even
theoretically possible,
it's
but
there, but like, and I've shipped so many, like it's never happened again. So I'm still like,
right.
something really weird happened with that
Yeah.
package.
Yeah. I hear you.
But they're pretty, like, they can go from mid low 30s all the way to tropical temperatures. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's pretty cool about them too, you know, that they're really adaptable. And the fact that like there are species that have adapted to just about anything you can imagine that's a niche out there. um I don't know of any that are like extremivores, so to speak, like actually
right.
living in a volcano or something. But
Well, there
uh
is one species endemic to a thermal spring. That's the first thing
is
I can
there?
think of. Yeah,
Okay.
there is one.
Well, there
It's
you
not
go.
like super hot, I don't think, but
Still though, that's
and it's
kind of
funny
living
reading
in
the
a
paper
volcano.
because the scientists are all like very salty. They're like, and it's regularly trampled by tourists bathing in the spring, and I'm like, man, this is this is the only place.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys got to start breeding them. Come on.
Okay, Mike's got a good question, which is what like diseases do you have to check them for? So I know that for a fact there are nematodes and trematodes and what's the other type? There's one other one, and it's in my brain, but I can't think of it right now. That can live in isopods and then be passed on. The thing is, most of them are a three host parasite. So they're either not that bad in the isopod and you don't have to worry, or they need a fish and then a bird and then back to water and then
Yep.
to a snail, then to a fish, then to the isopod, then to yeah. So they either have a snail, a bird, a fish, and an isopod, or take one of those out. But like they have one of those four things going on. It's either, and it's a three-step parasite in like 90% of what I've read about. So that makes it a lot safer than some of the other parasites that exist, like just living in, say, like another fish. Like you're way more likely to get a parasite if you go to like Petco and just buy a guppy and throw that in a tank than you would be from an
Yeah.
isopod ever.
And I would say like the people that, like for instance, like Conrad that are selling them, they've been breeding them for a long time.
Right. They've been
Um,
indoor. They haven't been around the natural cycle.
the species I'm hoping is kind of like my original contribution is Lurcius brachyurus. That's like the species I'm hoping is going to be like, hey, he brought this one into the hobby, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping in a month or two to have those. And a couple things for how I'm going to go about the disease. What are you laughing at? I gotta know.
So somebody says, "Can you suggest a good bird for my tank?" Then.
No.
Yeah.
Duck? I don't know.
Seagull.
There you go. So what one thing is where I found them at was really clean water, actually. So that's the first thing is it was like spring water.
Cool.
And they're, if you see dragonfly larvae, mayfly larvae, like you're not gonna find them most likely because they're eating them. So you gotta go, and then there's not really anything gross there besides scuds. And I took them out, just a small amount. I didn't take any hardscape or anything. And then when I got home, I used featherweight forceps and individually plucked each one into the new tank. And then I'm going to basically do a dewormer for them. Because like you said, the nematodes and stuff's like a Prazi Pro, maybe some levamisole, just so I hit all the kind of worms.
You got to kind of be careful with the levamisole, however you want to say it, levamisole. I've heard many, whatever. Doesn't matter. Levamisole, levamisole, that stuff can be pretty strong. So a little goes a long way. But I'm sure you know that if you play
100%. And also, when I saw Dan's fish, he talked at the aquarium called the Lancaster. One of the things he brought up that I'd forgotten about was how much your water parameters affect toxicity of certain medications.
Oh, totally. That's a really good point. Yeah.
And they have super hard water, so they're using, he said, the half dose of ICX they can use. And if they use the full dose, it kills their fish. I have super soft water.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know what that means, but
no, but also what you're
thinking.
mentioning, like if you have softer water, or a slightly acidic water, I've also noticed that ICX just sucks the oxygen out of your tank. So you got to run an air stone or a hang off the back filter. So like my filterless tanks, if I use ICX in them, the fish will start coming to the top and gasping. And I ruled out, everything. It's oxygen. So like an air stone fixes the problem totally. But then I had heard from Gary Lang, the rainbow fish expert. He was like, "Oh no, duh." He's a biochemist, so he's explaining to me the chemical reaction, and I'm like,
"Yeah,
right, yeah, that."
That's the. So I'm close because I'm my next video on the isopods, and it's been a while, so like the isopod people are kind of mad at me, but it's because I want it to be like freshwater isopods in North America, a taxonomic overview, right?
Oh boy.
And I'm not a scientist, so it's like I'm trying to understand it, and I want to reach out to the experts, like the people that wrote the papers, but the people I know that have, it's like they're kind of unfriendly.
They
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I've found the same thing with any insect people that I've reached out to. It's rough. I mean, I don't know. I think not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm probably somewhere on there at the spectrum. But I think we got some severely tism type people.
No, I mean
obsessing over antennas and mating claw formation shapes and things like that. So
yeah, like there's some extremely antisocial people. And like again, I hate that it's like, yeah, you never want to generalize, but at the same time, we're all fish hobbyists. We understand the people that we are. I go to fish meetings, I meet people like me. I'm like, oh, you're like this with your hobby. I totally understand.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, totally. And also, Mike, holy smokes, we got a big super chat. Thank you very kindly. That's wild. Goodness. Thank you, Mike. That's very generous. I'm glad you're digging what we're putting down today. Thank you for supporting the channel. I don't know how to thank people when you do things this nice, like you know, Johnny, other people lately. Like, I appreciate it, you know. Hopefully the other thing is you've been talking about selling, how you don't love selling the isopods and stuff, but you wanted to see the price come down, you wanted to see them popularized. That's kind of my same agenda too, where like Mala with shrimp, I'm almost positive that I'm responsible for them all across the country, because I brought them to the guy who brought them to Grant at the Garden of Eder,
Mm,
as well as a couple other places. And before my video, I've never even found any like reading material on them. And I started spreading them like Johnny Appleseed, my Amala with shrimp, about 10 years ago. So with how easy they are to keep, I was like, we need something like a Neocaridina that people can just like have for the sake of having a shrimp in the hobby. And I like to think, I don't know, maybe someone will figure out someday. Maybe I'm totally delusional and I didn't have any, I didn't help at all. But you know,
I mean, every little bit
yeah.
counts.
I mean, but I see like I like it when I meet people like you that are like, I just want this in the hobby, so I don't care what it takes. You
Yeah.
know, I don't
And
care if
look,
I
let me
just do
not
it
be
to
like,
break
oh, it's
even.
not like I don't want to like be successful and sell things.
Right,
Just
right.
I'd rather do the content. The selling stuff is kind of like you said, it's like a bridge way, you know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
sell this isopod to someone, they're gonna breed it and sell it over there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then the price will come down that way. And then I want to bring in new species and be able to say that I've identified them with the taxonomic name. You
Right.
know,
And
that's like
then
my next thing,
yeah,
because we have
spreading good
family
info
names, but the species name is like, so the Lurcius brachus is the first one that I can say for sure,
confidently. Yeah. Yeah.
80%.
Well, that's pretty good. So we got a couple more things I want to address here. So Johnny, thank you. Gifted another membership. Speaking of spreading the knowledge, spreading the love. Thank you, Johnny, best buddy. Whoever got the membership, I used to host all my sources and these papers when I say, oh, I have a paper on that or I have a source on that. Now it's on the Discord. So it's free. You guys can still come over to the Discord and it's hosted under the documents section. So you can also join and pay and be a member on the Discord, or a member here for $1.99 or more on the channel, whatever you want to do to support. But I think education should be free and should be available to those who are willing to search for the info. So I try to host it and I try to get as much info as I can. When I do a video, I try to get a hold of the people who wrote the papers and get a clearance for the information if I can. Now, sometimes the publishers own the rights to the journal publication and they won't allow it to be shared. And that's when we kind of have to share it verbally, and you can't like show the paper or scan the paper in. But I try to share this information via
Yeah.
uh, via to everyone, not just to paying members, because I think students or people in a country where maybe your money just isn't worth as much to a euro or a dollar or whatever, it's not it shouldn't be I shouldn't be a gatekeeper of it, in my opinion. But that's these days you can't avoid getting political, but that's like a whole political thing. Like if
Yeah.
I say I want to democratize education, it's like
No, no, I
I'm a
get it.
commie.
And definitely, I have a Research Rabbit collection of 147 papers that definitely, I guess I can put the link in the chat. Or you can put it in your Discord or
I was gonna
both.
say, yeah, if you don't mind,
Um,
I can host that link, just repost it on the Discord for folks too if they're interested in
okay,
reading through
I put
that.
that in our chat in the StreamYard.
Cool,
So,
thank you.
because part of my hope with that is that someone smarter than me will figure out stuff. Because I would love to not have to try and identify isopods. Like I don't know what I'm doing. So like, please,
Right, yeah.
someone else
So
with the microscope.
I have a microscope,
Yeah.
but I don't also want to get to know isopods that closely. I'd rather stick with
It's like
fish.
hard. It's like I'm in deep. Do I want to go deeper? Do I want to
Right,
go
yeah,
deeper?
right.
I'm gonna have some angry scientists emailing me like, "You're spreading misinformation. You don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "Well, it's your fault that I have to go to Anne's archive and pirate a book from 10 years ago to know anything about
Totally,
this topic." So
totally. Johnny Best also said he's gonna try his hand at this. Right on. So we got some more folks, it looks like, and thank you for the super chat, buddy. I was gonna say though, it looks like we've got some more folks interested in trying out isopods, which to me, like, that's great. That's like, knowing is half the battle, and a lot of people just don't know that these are out there. I know a lot of people who are keeping them just because they think they're interesting. Honestly, I've watched them and they're very social for
Oh yeah.
a crustacean. What, I don't know, what should I call them? A micro crustacean? For an insect? They're not an insect, but like, for whatever they are. For a creepy crawly, they're very like cuddly with each other, and they're very like, they touch antennas and kind of like, they're definitely communicating in
People
some way.
always love like how they crawl up things and jump off and like
Yeah,
twist their kick their legs. Like they're really fun. And I would definitely say, like, yeah, if you're interested in, there's tons of places to buy them now. My go-to recommendation, I only recommend Aquapods LLC because he's the first one to be breeding and selling them. He's got morphs, and I know for a fact that he's been breeding them all for a long time. So
cool.
and he's got the best prices actually. So
Yeah, there you go.
just saying. He beat me at my own. He came back. I call him Isopod Jesus because he was he was gone for 4 years. Everyone would always message me, "Do you have the black morphs?" I was like, "No, that guy's gone." And then he came back. I posted it on like my Reddit account, and so many people messaged me like, "Thank you for posting. I've been waiting for his return." But he's like not a public guy at all. Like he definitely is not interested in
He
being.
might be one of those insect kind of guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's nice though. He's nice. It's funny because earlier someone said like they're like, oh, every ichthyologist I've ever talked to is like, I think part of it is what you're studying. I think these people also get a chip on their shoulder because they're studying something no one cares about. Like people care about fish. No one cares about aquatic eyes. Most people don't even know they exist, even though they're around everywhere.
Yeah. Even though
Unless
like
you fish.
they literally stop the world from being full of shit, like isopods. Like, we would have too much stuff everywhere if it weren't for, for fungi, for any detrivore, for snails, for, I saw people talking earlier, and this is like a whole, like, I'd love to have a whole separate episode about this, but they're talking about Poland and how Poland, I believe it's, what is it, Warsaw or somewhere, where they have the water system for the entire city has clams, and there's just a little sensor, and if the clams open and feeding in the water, the drinking water, that means it's clean and there's not anything toxic in it. But as soon as there's ammonia or anything in the water, any heavy metals or anything, it will close up and stop feeding, and the electrode will no longer be in contact, and the little thing they glued to the top of the clam comes out of completing the circuit, and it literally closes the valve on the water, and then an engineer comes and checks like what's going on and tests the water. It's like,
that's awesome.
Wow, like they literally used the clam and its own opening and closing mechanism as the test, like the first litmus test for like, something's going wrong. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there about bivalves. That's a whole separate topic though. And they're really water cleaners in the sense of cleaning particulate matter and stuff like that. So Dennis also did a super sticker. Thank you so much, Dennis Engel. Good to see you, by the way. Happy to see you here. And also I saw Barbara Jackson. I love seeing you. Good to see you, my friend. Gifted 5 memberships for folks. So thank you, you guys.
Wow.
Seriously, really appreciate that. And if you're new, if
you didn't tell me people liked you this much, man. This is crazy.
Seriously,
this is crazy. What's going on?
I'm feeling like it's contagious tonight. You're helping me, man. Like,
it's the isopod agenda, bro. I'm telling you,
the isopod love. Yeah,
you got to say the isopod agenda one time.
Isopod agenda. Okay,
let's go.
It's a conspirity now. Like the isopod agenda is coming to your town. Like it's gonna take over. That's
what I'm saying. I did want to say, because someone mentioned which nanofish they keep them with. Have you tried keeping them with fish? Any nanofish yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've kept them. So I haven't successfully yet. Wait, let me think if this is true. No, it's not true. Okay, so
I was about to say, come on, don't
let
lie
me
to us.
restate this. I have live bears, so least killifish, which people call live bears, but they're very tiny live birth fish. The least killifish, Heteranda
Yep,
formosa.
love those
But I
guys.
have them living with them, and they're not big enough to eat the adults.
Yep.
So they actually don't eat them, but they just clean up the tank for me. And they get any missed fish food, which I was that's why I put them in there, was to see how that would go. But they haven't bred out of control by any
Yeah.
means. Like
And
they
also with
seem,
the nanofish, like they'll eat the babies still,
yes,
probably.
and
And
so
that's probably why
you're
they're not
right.
going crazy.
You're right. So they are eating the immature ones. I have seen that occur. When I turn the lights out, I'll turn them back on like half an hour later, and then it's just like an all-out massacre because a lot of the isopods have come out and started kind of like foraging or whatever. And then the little fish are like, they kind of like, oh, what's up with the light? And then they look around, they're like, oh, food. But I've also tried them with the elastomas. Those
Yep.
are a brutal hunting fish. For a
Demolish
little,
them.
yeah. I've tried them with several species of Batis. I've tried them with,
Oh, the baddest.
they're brutal at hunting those things
The
down.
baddest is one of those fish where I've bred them. They're so pretty,
Yeah.
but they're not necessarily mean, but they're such predators. Like I like breeding things together. I can't breed anything with the baddest in the
No,
tank. They'll
no.
they'll eat and they hang out at the top. You know, they'll do that hanging out at the top. The moment
Yeah.
a little fry comes by, oh man.
Oh yeah, they'll eat it. Yeah, and they'll get territorial. They'll like kind of make a little nest or a corner that's like
Yeah.
anything within 6 inches. They'll like chase away. So yeah, it's kind of wild.
Now I have kept them with scarlet baddest, and for me at least, the scarlet baddest, because that's a fish I've been breeding,
Yeah, I love
and
them.
they
They're one of
haven't
my
been
favorites.
they're just as big as the adults are, like just as big as the
Yeah,
scarlet
they
baddest
they
though.
totally are.
So they don't. That's one that I would say I keep them with those chili rasboras. I would do easily.
Yeah, I've got them with
Killy
chili raspberries right now.
clown killifish I've done. Because the clown killies really stay at the top. They didn't bot. That was a 10 gallon with them.
I think though
Uh,
all those fish, I know the chilies are eating the immature
yes,
juveniles.
yes, because they're
Uh,
so small. Like, how could you not?
Right. They
It's
must
so
just taste
tempting.
good too. Fish are good at sensing vibration. So even if you think they're not noticing, if they get hungry, they may. The thing is,
That's a good
fish
point.
fish so often I've heard people say they're not eating the live culture I got from you, like local people, because like I said, I don't tend to sell to like just everyone around the country. But they'll get a culture from me, and they'll call me a week later, and they'll be like, my fish are kind of ignoring the scuds or the this or the that. And I'm like, well, have you been feeding them? And they're like, yeah, I feed them frozen bloodworms every night. And I'm like, well, why would they hunt? Like, your fish are used to like 7 o'clock gorging themselves on bloodworms, which
Mm,
like it's kind of like if you stop and get McDonald's every morning and every night for your way home, like you might not have room to go stop by Jack in the Box later. I don't know, it's a terrible analogy, but the isopods, with live food, your fish will eventually end up preferring them in most cases, I've found. And there's a lot of fish out there in the native hobby, like native North American fish hobby, that will only eat live food. And the thing is, when they're from the tropics and they only eat live food, they don't tend to enter the hobby. Like, we just don't include them in the hobby because it's too difficult. Unless they're killifish. Killifish people are crazy and they'll include them in the hobby no matter what. Like, doesn't matter.
hey, careful. I'm a killifish person.
Hey,
I'm looking.
I
Hey,
appreciate it.
careful. I'm looking
It
at 4 different species right now.
That's cool. I mean, but like I'm saying, like, you guys you'll hand culture, you'll culture micro worms and whatever it
Yes,
takes in
yes,
Fusoria.
yes. No, no. Fruit. Oh,
Whereas,
some they love the flightless fruit flies.
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm not doing that. I can't.
Totally. Hey, Mick, I appreciate it. Somebody, Mick just put up Nick's channel. Do you like Nick or Nicholas? What do you
Either
prefer?
one's
Like,
fine. Nick is
okay,
fine. It's easy.
okay.
Or you can
So,
call me Tanks.
Tanks, yeah, I call you Tank.
Some people have been calling me Tanks. I think it's so funny. Thanks,
All right,
Tanks. So
I'm gonna
funny.
call you In. Yo, what's up,
Okay.
In? No,
Okay. That
I'll call
sounds
it.
safe.
Yeah, not safe for work. Um, we got Mike just dropped another super chat. Jeez, Mike. Mike, thank you. Appreciate it, buddy. Like save some money to go buy some isopods though. Like
No, it's fine. It's fine. Listen, if the
but thank
isopod
you.
agenda keeps paying Fishery, then he will work for the isopod agenda. He'll keep
Right.
spreading it.
Right. Yeah, no, I've been having fun tonight, and I think we're probably gonna wrap it up pretty soon here, just to keep this stream manageable, so that people will come by and watch it later too. But I've had a
Sure.
lot of fun, man, and I'm glad people got to meet you and got to kind of see what your vibes about. Hope they check out your channel at In My Tanks, and he's got some content there. He live streams. You could probably add some more content.
Yeah, I know. I got some stuff coming soon.
Cool. Yeah. But in the meantime, if you guys have anybody you'd like me to have on the channel that's willing and a decent person, geez, that's my bare minimum for you coming on the channel is you have to be a decent person, like by first glance.
Hey,
not
don't.
not
It's
too
never too
hard.
late for me. It's never too
Right.
late for me to become terrible. Don't worry.
I know, right? I always have to
I can
like.
start liking
Well,
Scuds.
I have to hold that in my mind. Yeah, oh man, we're gonna have the Scuds agenda showing up and like wanting to rumble.
I know Phillips Fishworks about to show up at my house.
Oh yeah, that's right. He likes them, huh? He likes the Scuds a little more. It's because they
Yeah,
breed faster. Probably they probably make more money for him.
he
But
has the isopods too, but he doesn't seem to like them as much.
I
Which it
I,
does
I
make
don't
me
know.
hold a grudge. Come on,
Yeah.
bro. It's like I'm the unloved child.
Oh
Come
man,
on.
we got Mike saying who invented the first aquarium. To be
Oh
honest,
God.
because this debate kicked off between Joey and I, he said, "Oh, you don't know anything," and then he said, "You said it was a woman over 200 years ago." I was that heated. That made me heated, just because it did happen to be a woman who ordered the first one from a Venice glass blower to have what we think of as the sheets of glass blown and like 4 or 5 sided aquarium. That was a woman whose idea it was to observe life and to make a biotope. She's one of the first people to coin the word ecosystem. But there was a
Mm,
network of European scientists and scholars, that naturalists as they called themselves, that were writing each other. And so there's actually, you could say 5 or 6 people that kicked around those ideas and should all get credit for some facet of it. But she stands out in my mind as someone interesting and somebody who had beautiful illustrations and notes that
wow.
survive. Most of her notes, however, went to the bottom of the sea when she moved back to England, which was a bummer, in 1838. But a lot of the illustrations you see, if you see an old aquarium illustration of any sort of shell or octopus or like any sort of cephalopod or a cuttlefish or anything, a lot of
Mm.
those are her illustrations that are really like beautiful, old, detailed, like
So
they
when's the
almost look
video
Art
on
Deco.
this? You already done a video on this?
Oh, I've already
Cause
done a couple videos. Yeah.
okay, I gotta go back and watch that.
Somebody's just pulling my leg though, asking for, you know, uh,
Uh, He's still
uh,
cracking me up with his questions. He was like, "Could isopods see ultraviolet? Can they hear plants?" I'm like, "Oh my god,
you know,
that's a
they probably. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they could see some sort of different light than we do. Like underwater, red light disappears real quick. So the aquatic isopods may have some different, set of characteristics. But my guess is they can probably sense vibrations to a very sensitive degree, and they can
Mhm.
probably sense chemotrophically. So like tasting a lot of critters can really taste like what's going on and shifts in the environment, like it's almost like licking your finger and like telling which way the wind's going or whatever. And then like I don't know, picking up, you know, the scat on the trail and smelling it and being like, oh, it's
Oh
fresh. It happened.
gosh.
It just happened.
See, when I say how deep, like, see, I don't want to get so deep in the isopods. So I start doing that. It's
Right.
getting dangerous.
Right.
I have mealworm beetles right now.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah.
I got the mealworms. I was like, let me culture these. Now I got 100 mealworm beetles up there. I just looked at them. I'm like, have I gone too far this
Yeah.
time?
What are you doing with those? Are you like cleaning skulls or something? I mean, like,
I'm
are
just
you
throwing duckweed and stuff in there, honestly.
okay? Okay. You're
And
just playing around.
I have Persilioscape or lava going in there too. So it's kind of there's a lot of weird stuff going on
Yeah. Okay.
around here.
Don't go over to his house.
Yeah. No, it's in Exoterra. It's a real enclosure. You know, it's dedicated to mealworm beetles and black soldier fly larvae and isopods.
Wasabi says, "Yo, we should clean bones." I had a girl that I was friends with, good friends with for a long time,
Oh
who
man.
had like tons of those beetles. I forget what they're called, but the ones that clean bones really well. And she would get roadkill, and then she'd make jewelry out of it. And she wasn't like a
Mm,
goth or anything, you know, like you might expect, but she was just very artsy, and she'd make casts of like bird skulls and, you know, I don't know, squirrel skulls,
man.
and then she'd cast them in bronze and copper and silver and very odd stuff. But she was
Yeah,
really into
I'm
those
putting
beetles.
salt around my doors just to make
Yeah.
sure. Like, can you step over the salt real quick? Let me just make sure.
Wasabi says, I'm goth and I would love to do that. Well,
See,
great. I don't have anything against goths. Go, you know, you be you. I don't care. I don't care if you're a
I don't. It kind of
square or
sounds
the
like you're
weirdest person out
judging
there.
the mealworm beetle. Like
I
maybe you
am
should.
okay. I am like when you start having maggots that then turn in. I don't care. They're not larvae. They're maggots. Once you have maggots that are in your house and you're raising them, not just to feed as like a oh man I have to raise maggots, but you're like I get to raise maggots. That's weird, man.
I
That
was pretty
attitude shift.
upset when I learned that they weren't really worms. I was like, I'm not happy about this.
I know they're not really maggots either, but yeah,
I,
mealworms. Yeah,
but
they're
like, you're totally right. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I'll wait till the beetles die and then just feed all the worms or
well,
something.
you
But
know,
they seem like they'd be dangerous to feed.
Black
The black soldier,
Soldier.
yeah.
Yeah, they're really good quality. I was surprised somebody was it Smithy's Fish Works, I think, or Smithy's Aquatics. Man, I'm sorry, Smithy. I'm gonna butcher your channel name, but anyways, he just posted on Facebook. He got some stuff at Walmart, and it was a fish food like in bulk. And the first ingredient was black soldier fly larva. The second ingredient was like mealworm, you know, paste or something. But like the
Right.
first 6 or 7 ingredients were all really solid, and I was like, "That's from Walmart? Like, why didn't I know
Foods are
about this stuff?"
they're getting better and cheaper to make better foods. So
Yeah.
I will say, I know we got to wrap, but I just want to. Have you noticed that all roads in this hobby lead to chickens? Have you noticed that? It seems like everything points me that I need to get chickens, and then I talk to other people in the hobby. They're like, "Yeah, I have chickens. I've had them for like 4 years." I'm like, "Oh god, oh god."
Yeah, you know, so it's funny because I think anybody getting into aquaculture or horticulture, even if you want to call it that, like any sort of like either homesteading or horticulture, aquaculture, hydroponic, aquaponic, there's like this like loop they do, and part of it is the earliest work that's done kind of ends up talking about how chickens are incredible, you know, at processing and producing usable, you know, well, both eggs are great,
See, that's
but
what
then
I'm saying.
they eat the insects, then they make like the nastiest poo, but it's also so good in like for fertilizer. But when I lived in a household full of hippies after college, we did have tilapia in an aquacultural pond. Then we had strawberries and blueberries and all these berries in a greenhouse, and then chickens in the greenhouse too. And we were using the dung from that, and then we were growing like mealworms and other little like
Wow.
composting worms. So like red wrigglers or whatever they were, earthworms, and had chickens. But yeah, I think there's something like, you're right, because also chickens are like, for a while there, they were like everybody in Seattle, which is very like, if you've seen the show Portlandia, that's like a pretty true assessment of how things go up here sometimes. But like, yeah, everyone for a while wanted like 4 chickens in their backyard in the city. And
See what I'm talking about.
after the lockdown, and like a good solid, like, I don't know, 10% of people, 20% of people tried it, everyone was kind of like, oh, stuff that, chickens are nasty. So, but you got to try it for yourself, I feel like, like, and egg prices have gone nuts, so maybe now is like a genius time to have chickens.
That's what I'm worried about. I can't do this anymore. I've already gone too far down.
You got the beetles now to feed the chickens. You got planted tanks that need fertilizing, and egg prices are nuts. I mean, yeah, maybe.
Well, next time we gotta talk about live cultures that are a lie. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, so you mean Scuds?
Well, also the flower beetles, the peanut beetles, like ones that are just gonna waste your time and you're gonna eventually give up on. And get chickens.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate that. Well, you guys, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for our guest here, Nicholas. Thanks for joining us here and sharing your experience and some of your personality and time and love with us. And if folks want to check him out, go check out his channel, In My Tanks. And there's I spelled his name wrong in the thumbnail because I had only heard it verbally said and never paid attention to how it was spelled. That's my bad. That's totally my bad. But I think he seems like a nice, strapping young lad, and you guys should check him out. And thanks for joining us. Thank you guys so much for those of you who were here, but also those of you who are watching later, those of you who are just lurking and aren't chatting, and those of you who are super chatting and stuff. Like, you guys make this channel possible. You guys allow me to do this, twice a week live stream, and to make, a video to 3 videos, depending on what I can manage a week. I can't do it without you, and you guys are awesome, and thank you. So regardless of if you're just here watching and listening and learning, if you're sharing knowledge, I appreciate you all. I really do. And you guys are my real community and friends. And there's no like, oh, they're my online friends. You guys are, you're real to me. So I appreciate it. And I hope that we've, made a friendship for real between you and I today, Nicholas. So like, I hope when we see
I saw
each other in person.
Jess L asked in the chat, when is he coming back? If I'm not banned,
right?
It's like the cat.
I'll have to, I'll have to pop up on your channel too, so that people can come see where you lurk. But yeah, we'll have you back because you also have some other, killifish and things like that are interesting. And if anybody watching wants to come on the channel, and you just have to chat with me and sell me that you're passionate about something. You don't need to be a pro expert. I just, if it's enough that we can talk like this, I truly appreciate it. I think we'll have fun.
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, y'all know where to find me. Yeah, same here, Yeah, just do it, guys. Just do what you love and get excited about it and tell everyone about it. Who cares if you're annoying? You'll have to show off your tanks. Have you done that on your channel, like shown all your tanks?
I have not. I've sometimes on live streams I'll walk around. That's kind of the thing. It's like when I put in new videos, like I'm known for the isopods, but I've been working a lot on breeding fish. My goal is to breed 30 species this year.
Oh, nice.
I'm down. I've done 10 so far. So
you're on track, man. Yeah.
And I like what are some fun ones that we got? Like, I got the scarlet baddest. I got all the killifish, like the
those
Galaris.
Are not easy. Like you're not shooting like, oh, I'm gonna do all 190 live
Elasoma gilberti, Swilia lineata.
Cool.
We
got more things we can talk about then.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I like the stuff that's a little bit different most of the time.
I mean, for being in the hobby, you said only 2 years. I can't believe that. That's pretty wild.
2 years in July. 2 years in July.
So you're biting off stuff that usually people have the community tank or a bettable, and they're like, this is okay, but I need a couple more. Like I
It's
can see you
mental
have a full
illness.
room of stuff already. So
Yeah,
you're like
it's
me.
mental illness, and I like the
Yeah,
way I get into hobbies is like
all or
it's such a
nothing.
rabbit hole. Like the
Yeah.
first time that I spent 8 hours straight looking up stuff about isopods, when I was like, man, I really can deep dive on anything, can't I? Like
Right. Yeah.
there's no limit to my depravity. Oh, look, this is my cat. This is my cat Ada telling me
Oh.
that I've been streaming too long.
Yeah, I know
Ada?
my cat was bugging me earlier, but she was pretty quiet. What's your cat's name?
Her name's Ada.
Ada.
Say
Hi,
hi,
Ada.
Ada. Yes, you like to show off
Yeah,
and
she's gonna
stand in
show
front of
her
me.
male or female.
It's she's a girl.
She's okay.
You did.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh,
Ada.
she looks so soft.
Yeah, she's cute, but I have to get her off the table because she's gonna cause trouble. Right,
Oh
Ada?
yeah, I know how that goes. I don't even let Sumi in my fish room anymore because she's just immediately causing problems. Like immediately, she's like pulled a light off the rack or has her paw in a fish tank or whatever.
Yeah.
But well, thank you so much. I'm gonna say goodbye. You're gonna say goodbye. Goodbye. I like to
Goodbye.
let guests have the very last word. And
Okay.
so, how do you want to sign out? Whatever thought or whatever whatever you want to say, I'll leave it up to you. But thanks everyone, and I'll see you Friday, if not sooner, and in a video sooner too. But thanks for
All
coming.
right, everyone. Ada the cat says support the isopod agenda, donate the fishery, and if you have any questions and you comment on the stream, I will try and answer them. If not, Alex, that's all on you. Thank you all. Isopod agenda for life. Fishery and in my tanks forever. Come on, let's do it again.